I started collecting arrowheads at about the age of 12. I lived in San Diego at the time, and this is the style of points I was finding. And this I spent about 4 years assembling. The first arrowhead I found was this one right here. 3 days after I moved there, me and my brother went on our bikes up a dirt trail, and this was laying right there on top of the ground. Which is kind of strange because this one's very different than the rest of them. This one definitely looks like it's probably 3,000 or 4,000 years old. I don't think I've opened this case in at least 30 years. But I'm going to open it up today so you can get a better look at some of these. There's 2 of them in here that are obviously better than the rest. This one that has the serrated edges is pretty unique. That's the only one I found with serrated edges. And then this one, of course, dark obsidian. It's extremely thin and perfectly made. I wonder if it was a ceremonial point. It's about as thin as a dime. And there it is on a nickel. That is definitely the best arrowhead I ever found. And we got the green felsite serrated edge. Definitely one to be proud of. So as you can see, they're averaging about 1 inch long, and they usually have a concave base, but not always. And there's about 5 or 6 different types of material they use to make these. Green felsite, obsidian, and quartz. And several other types that I'm not even sure what they are. Even though I don't live in San Diego County anymore, I still have a great interest in collecting these. I look on eBay occasionally for San Diego arrowheads, and I have never seen any. So if you have any that you're willing to sell, I'd be interested in possibly buying them from you. And most of the points I find were broken. Here's a frame full of the top halves of them. Just imagine how great of a collection I would have if all these broken points were intact. And another frame full of the bases of a bunch of them. Such a shame to see all these broken ones. I often wonder, how do they get broken? Were they chipping them and they were 99% finished, and the last chip they needed to make broke it in half? I would find about 5 or 6 broken ones every day and just one whole one. And I would spend 6 or 7 hours a day looking for these. And here's my second frame of mostly intact examples. Yeah, it took about 5 years to get all these arrowheads. But then I discovered bottle collecting, and then I totally quit looking for arrowheads. When I was 19 years old, I was a pizza delivery driver, and I remember going up to this one guy's house and handing him the pizza, and I saw he had a few frames of arrowheads behind him. So I talked to him about them for a few minutes, and we ended up becoming friends. And he asked me once, "Did you ever go to this famous Indian site beside or behind Lake Henshaw?" And I said, "No, I have never heard of it." So he said, "You should probably go over there and have a look at it." So it was way on the very far end of the county, and of course San Diego County is about 100 miles long. So it was way out there in the middle of nowhere. And this Indian site was on the backside of the lake. So I had to walk probably almost a mile to get to it. I spent 2.5 to 3 hours walking all over this Indian site, and I didn't find a single thing. But on the way back to my car, I decided I'm going to walk along the shoreline and maybe find some fishing lures or something. That was another hobby of mine. But I didn't find any. But I did see a few old Coke bottles from the 40s and 50s laying in the mud flats. Something told me they were worth a few dollars. I picked them up, brought them home, cleaned them off, put them on my windowsill, and started thinking, these are kind of neat. I'm going to wait another 10 days and hopefully it won't rain and this lake that's drying up will be even further dried up. So I took a 5-gallon bucket over there and walked around the entire lake looking for soda bottles. And I found about 24 of them. And that's what started my bottle collecting addiction. So I often wonder if I hadn't gone to that lake like this guy told me to look for arrowheads, would I even be a bottle collector right now? It scares me to think, because bottle collecting is about 80% of my life is somehow involved with bottle collecting and digging and buying, selling, cleaning and repairing and all that kind of stuff. What would I be doing for a living right now if I hadn't discovered bottle collecting? Because that is my career, actually. I have a bottle shop, if you hadn't already figured it out. But I still enjoy these arrowheads, even though I lived in New Mexico for 15 years and I only found one arrowhead the whole time. And I've been in North Carolina at least 6 years now and I haven't found a single arrowhead the whole time. But I haven't really been looking for them either. These were being sold in a shop relatively close to my house, and every week or 10 days I'd go back and buy one more. I was probably 14 years old at the time. The people that were selling these to me at the store said they were real, but some of them I have to wonder about, especially that obsidian one right there. That one's kind of odd, and those two certainly look like they could be fakes, but that one looks pretty real. Yeah, that's right, I make a living dealing in antique bottles, but not a very good living, that's for sure. Sometimes I occasionally get to buy arrowheads being in the antique business, and most of the time I can't bear to part with them. Here's a grouping that is supposedly from northern New Mexico. They're quite small. When I was digging bottles in Albuquerque, New Mexico, I met a guy that took an interest in some of the bottles I was finding, especially the embossed drugstores of Albuquerque. So I think I traded him 4 or 5 of them for this frame of arrowheads. These are supposedly from northern New Mexico as well. They look to be real, but I'm not sure if every one of them is. And here's some more from northern New Mexico that I traded some embossed drugstore bottles for. They're pretty nice looking. They look pretty realistic to me. They're not too fancy. Here's another grouping of arrowheads that I bought one at a time. They're from all over the country. That's supposed to be a Folsom point. Bought it through the mail from a big company called Beatty's or something like that. They guaranteed all their stuff to be authentic. But they were selling Folsom points for $15 a piece. So you gotta think they gotta be fake. And the ones on either side of that also look pretty fake to me. Way too fancy to be real. Too shiny. Too inexpensive. That's where I got most of these in 1979 and 80. Bought them through the mail.